This is Lesson 5.3, Adding and Subtracting Mixed Numbers. The baby weights of several babies in the hospital nursery are shown. Write an expression to find how much more Nicholas weighs than Mia. Nicholas weighs 7 and 15/16 pounds. Mia weighs 5 7/8 pounds. So this would be your numerical expression involving subtraction. Rename the fractions using the LCD. Well, 16 is 2 to the 4th. 8 is 2 to the 3rd. So because all these factors are included here, 16 would be our least common denominator. So 7 and 15/16 we could leave. We would subtract then 5 and 14/16 because that's what 7/8 would be. If we wrote an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 16, we then subtract the numerator, or the fraction parts, 15 minus 14, and again we only subtract numerators. Keep the denominator. Then we subtract the whole number parts. 7 minus 5 is 2. So we wrote the expression, we renamed 7/8 using least common denominator, or lowest common denominator. We found the difference of the fraction parts, right here. And then we found the difference of the whole number parts, right here. Explain how to find 7 and 15/16 minus 5 and 7/8, then use your conjecture to find the difference. Well, I think we already did that. We make sure both fractions have a common denominator. We subtract the fraction part, then we subtract the whole number part. To add or subtract mixed numbers, first add or subtract the fractions. If necessary, rename them using the LCD, lowest common denominator, then add or subtract the whole number and simplify if necessary. Pretty much what we just said. Find 7 and 4/9 plus 10 and 2/9. First thing they did here was estimate. They rounded 7 and 4/9 to the nearest whole number, which in this case would be 7. 10 and 2/9 to the nearest whole number would be 10. So our estimate is 7 plus 10 or 17. Because we already have common denominators, we simply add the numerators. 4/9 plus 2/9 is 6/9. We then add the whole number parts. 7 plus 10 is 17. Because 6/9 is not in simplest form, because we can see that we have 3 as a common factor, we would rewrite that to simplify it. 17 and 6/9 becomes 17 and 2/3. When we compare that to our estimate of 17, we conclude that that is a reasonable answer. So example A, 6 and 1/8 plus 2 and 5/8. Again, we have common denominator, so we don't have to rewrite or rename. We add the numerators. 5 plus 1 is 6. We keep the denominator. So 1/8 plus 5/8 is 6/8. 6 plus 2 is 8. 6 and 8 have 2 as a common factor. So we rewrite this answer as 8 and 3/4. Now, we didn't estimate. We should go back and do that. We have 6 plus 3. Rounding 6 and 1/8 to the nearest whole number, which would be 6. Rounding 2 and 5/8 to the nearest whole number, which would be 3. Our estimate is 9, which gives us a reasonable answer of 8 3/4 based on that estimate. Okay, so 5 and 1/5. Let's estimate first here. 5 and 1/5 round to 5. 2 and 3/10 would round to 2. So our estimate would be 7. 5 and 1/5 plus 2 and 3/10. 5 is a prime number. It is also a factor of 10, so our lowest common denominator is 10. So 5 and 1/5 becomes 5 and 2/10. No need to rename 2 and 3/10. Add the numerators. 2 plus 3 is 5. Leave the denominator. 5 plus 2 is 7. Again, we see that 5 is a factor of 10 and 5. So we rewrite this answer in simplest form as 7 1/2, which is a reasonable answer based on our estimate of 7. 1 5/9 in example C, plus 4 1/6. Again, we'll estimate here, we're going to round this up to 2 and this down to 4, so we get an estimate of about 6. We have unlike denominators. The prime factorization of 9 is 3 squared. The prime factorization of 6 is 2 times 3. So we're going to use these two 3's and this 2, which gives us a common denominator, lowest common denominator of 18. 5/9 becomes 10/18 by multiplying by 2 here and 2 here. 4 1/6 becomes 4 3/18. Multiplying by 3 and 3. We add the fraction part, we get 13/18. We add the whole number part, we get 5 13/18 as our sum. 13/18 is in simplest form because 13 is a prime number and not a factor of 18. Based on our estimate of 6, we would conclude that this is a reasonable answer. Find 8 5/6 minus 2 1/3. Write your answer in simplest form. 8 5/6 rounds up to 9. 2 1/3 rounds down to 2. We have an estimate of 9 minus 2, which is 7. 8 5/6 we don't need to rewrite because 6 is our lowest common denominator. We rewrite 2 1/3 to 2 2/6. Subtract fraction parts this time. 5 minus 2 is 3. Keep the denominators. 8 minus 2 is 6. 3/6. Both numerator and denominator have 3 as a factor. So 3/6 simplifies to 1/2. Our estimate of 7 is in agreement with our actual answer of 6 1/2. Example D, 5 1/4, or 5 4/5, I'm sorry, minus 1 3/10. Let's estimate 5 minus 1 would give us an estimate of 4. Our common denominator here would be 10. So we're going to change 4/5 to 8/10 by multiplying by 2, numerator and denominator. We can leave 1 3/10. We subtract fraction parts. 8 minus 3 is 5. 5 minus 1 is 4. 5/10 would simplify to 1/2 because 5 and 10 have 5 as a common factor. Our estimate of 4 would tell us that 4 1/2 is a reasonable answer. Example E, 13 7/8 minus 9 3/4. We're going to round this to 14 and this to 10. 14 minus 10 is 4. Our common denominator is going to be 8 because 8 is 2 to the third and 4 is 2 to the second. So 4 is a factor of 8. 13 7/8, no need to rewrite. 9 3/4 becomes 9 6/8. Subtract the fraction parts. 7 minus 6 is 1. Keep the denominator. 13 minus 9 is 4. 4 1/8. Very close to our estimate of 4. Example F will be the last one we'll do on this page. 8 2/3 minus 2 1/2. We're going to round 8 2/3 to 9. We're going to round 2 1/2 to 3. 9 minus 3 is 6. 3 is a prime, 2 is a prime, so our least common denominator would be the product of the 2. So 8 2/3 becomes 8 4/6. 2 1/2 becomes 8 3/6. Subtract the fraction parts. 4 minus 3 is 1. 1/6. 8 minus 2 is 6. 6 1/6 again closely agrees with our estimate. Second part. Example G, 7 3/4. Working lots of examples here. which is good. 7 3/4 is going to round to 8. 4 1/3 is going to round down to 4. 8 minus 4 is 4. 4 is 2 to the second. 3 is a prime, so 2 to the second times 3 gives us a lowest common denominator of 12. So I have to rewrite both fractions. 3/4 becomes 9/12, multiplying by 3, just to make sure I'm reminding people of how we do that. 4 1/3 becomes 4 4/12. Subtract the fraction part. 9 minus 4 is 5. Keep the denominator. 7 minus 4 is 3. 3 5/12. Reasonably close to my estimate of 4. 11 5/6. I'm going to round that to 12. Minus 3 1/8. I'm going to round that to 3. So 12 minus 3 is 9. That's my estimate. 6 is 2 times 3. 8 is 2 to the third. So these 3 2's and this 3, 2 to the third times 3 is 24. So 11 5/6 becomes 11 20/24. 3 1/8 becomes 3 3/24. Subtract the fraction part. 20 minus 3 is 17. Keep the denominator. 11 minus 3 is 8. 17 is prime and not a factor of 24. So this is our answer in simplest form. Again, in reasonably close agreement with our estimate of 9. Our last example here. 9 4/7 minus 5 1/2. 9 4/7 we round up to 10. 5 1/2. We're going to round that up to 6 as well. 10 minus 6 is 4. Both denominators are prime, so we're going to multiply them together to get our lowest common denominator, which then would be 14. 9 4/7 becomes 9 8/14. 5 1/2 becomes 5 7/14. Subtract the fraction part. 8 minus 7 is 1. Keep the denominator. 9 minus 5 is 4. Again, very close to my estimate of 4. Tells me my answer is reasonable. Sometimes when you subtract mixed numbers, the fraction is in the first mixed number is less than the fraction in the second mixed number. In this case, renaming the first fraction as an improper fraction in order to subtract. Rename the first fraction as an improper fraction in order to subtract. So 2 1/3 minus 1 2/3, we can't subtract 2/3 from 1/3. We're going to estimate, say 2 minus 1 1/2 is 1/2, which means our answer is going to be a really small fraction. We have to rename 2 1/3 before subtracting. 2 1/3, down here you can see that they've renamed that as 1 4/3. Now, they've kind of shown you up here what that looks like. What they've done is they've taken 1 away from the 2 and written it as a fraction. I tell students to do this, to rewrite 2 1/3 to 1 plus 1+1/3. Leave this one, change this to 3/3. Add it to the 1/3. Re-add everything, get 1 4/3. What that allows me to do now is subtract 2 from 4. So I subtract the fraction part and get 2/3. 1 minus 1 is 0. Gives me an answer of 2/3, which is a reasonable answer based on my estimate of 1/2. 8 minus 3 3/4. 8 minus 4 is my estimate. In this case, I have a whole number without a fraction part. I'm simply going to rewrite 8 as 8 0/4. 8 0/4 becomes 7 plus 1. 1 becomes 4/4, or whatever I need it to be. Add those two together. Now I have an equivalent fraction or equivalent mixed number to the whole number 8. Now I can subtract 3/4 from 1/4. I get 1/4. 7 minus 3 is 4. My estimate up here of 4 is very close. Okay, so 3 examples here. 11 2/5 minus 2 3/5. Nice of them to give me common denominator. I'm going to round this to 11. I'm going to round this to 3. 11 minus 3 is 8. I'm going to rewrite 11 and 2/5 because I can't subtract 3 from 2 as 10 and 8/5. I'm going to subtract 2 and 3/5 from that. Actually, I made a mistake up here. This is not 8/5. This is 7/5. Can't read my own writing. 7 minus 3 is 4. Keep the denominator. 10 minus 2 is 8. 8 and 4/5 would be my estimate, or my exact answer. Reasonably close to my estimate of 8. Should have probably rounded this one down. Example K, 5 and 3/8 minus 4 and 11/12 should be 5 minus 5, which is a 0 for an estimate. What that really means is I expect a really small fraction for this one. My common denominator of 8 and 12. 8 is 2 to the 3rd. I'm going to write that over here. 8 is 2 to the 3rd. 12 is 2 squared times 3. So I got to use these 3 2's and this 3. 2 to the 3rd is 8 times 3 is 24. So my least common denominator is 24. 5 and 2/8 becomes 5 and 6/24. In my second example, or my second number, my subtrahend, this is 11/12. So this becomes 4 and 22/24. Can't subtract 22 from 6. So I have to rewrite this as 4 and 30/24 minus 4 and 22/24 gives me 8/24. 4 minus 4 is 0. This fraction can simplify to 1/3, which is a reasonably small fraction and in agreement with my estimate of 0. My last problem is 7 minus 1/2. Remember, we're going to write this as 7 and 0/2 minus 1 and 1/2. This becomes 6 and 2/2 minus 1 and 1/2 gives me 5 and 1/2. My estimate as I go back would have been 7 minus 2, or about 5. An urban planner is designing a skateboard park. What will be the length of the park and the parking lot combined? That means add these two numbers right here. 20 and 1/2 plus 40 and 1/3. The common denominator is 6. 120 and 1/2 becomes 120 and 3/6. 40 and 1/3 becomes 40 and 2/6. Add the fraction part, get 5/6. Add the whole number part, get 160. My answer then is 160 and 5/6 feet. Jermaine walked 1 5/8 miles on Saturday, and 2.5 miles on Sunday. How many more miles did he walk on Sunday? So I'm not writing my expression correctly. I started to write before I read through the whole sentence, where the whole problem should actually be 2 and 1/2 minus 1 5/8. I'm going to round this to 3. I'm going to round this to 2. My estimate then is going to be about 1. My common denominator is going to be 8. So I've got 2 and 4/8 minus 1 and 5/8. Can't subtract 5 from 4, so I rename 2 and 4/8 to 2. Not 2, but 1, because I got to borrow the 1. 1 and 12/8 minus 1 and 5/8. So 12 minus 5 is 7. For subtracting the fraction parts, 1 minus 1 is 0. A very close answer in agreement with my estimate. Wow, way too many examples to work here. We've already gone 20 minutes. Let's do maybe 3. We'll do number 1 with a common denominator. 1 and 5/7 plus 8 and 1/7. Our estimate here would be 2 plus 8, 4, 10. Add the fraction parts. 5 plus 1 is 6, 8 plus 1 is 9, 9 and 6/7. Very close to my estimate. Let's do a subtraction problem with an unlike denominator. Let's go here and do 9 4/5. Minus 2 3/4 would be 10 minus 3, or about 7. Common denominator is going to be 20. 9 and 16/20 minus 2 and 15/20 gives me 7 and 1/20. Again, very close to that. Let's do one last one where we have to do a little renaming. Let's go to number 6 and do 5 2/3. Let's see, do I have to rename there? I don't think I do. Let's try it anyway. 2 3/5. Our estimate would be 6 minus 2, or about 4. 5 2/3 would become 5 and 10/15. 2 and 3/5 would be 2 and 9/15. So 3 and 1/15 would be my answer. A little lower than my estimate, but reasonably close. At this point, you should quit watching the video. Go to my Moodle page, log in, and watch Lesson Quiz 5.3. Thank you.